If you have any local like bridal shops, talk to them about samples, because inadvertently you always have someone that makes a mess on the sample when they're trying it on. Whether they get makeup all over it or, step on it and rip it terribly, they can't sell that thing. So a lot of times they're willing to either donate it to a haunted house or give it to you really, really cheap. You can keep it with the color it is currently, or you can change and alter it with a variety of dyeing techniques. And there's two main types of dyes. There's natural dyes and there's synthetic dyes. Natural dyes are, as the name says, things found in nature. And two of the easiest ones and cheapest ones are tea and coffee. And like this blouse was white. It was a 100% cotton white blouse at a thrift store. And what I did was I boiled a pot of water on the stove, put about 4 tea bags, let it simmer until it was really thick with tea, and just stuck this in there for about 2 hours. So it became this nice beigey color. Because the one thing that I like about with tea especially is if you've ever had like an old white dress or white shirt and you left in the closet for like 20 years, it starts yellowing, it starts fading, and no longer gets white, and gets like a crispy texture, and the fabric starts to rot and decay. And so tea gives you that look quickly without having to wait 20 years for the moth to get a hold of it. You can also use coffee. I don't know if a lot of people here are big coffee drinkers. I've used several cups of coffee in order to function in their life. Get around, put them in a pot of boiling water, and I'll just dunk parts of the costuming into them. Like I just put the bottom of the skirt only into the coffee ground, and I let it slowly soak up. I probably only put about a half an inch of the fabric into the actual water with the coffee, and then the fabric just naturally carried it part way up. And with using the natural dyes, they work best on natural fabric, so things like cotton, wool, silk, linen. Things that are highly synthetic, like acrylic, nylon, polyester, will not take a natural dye very well. They tend to reject the color. You can do like a little bit of staining, but you won't be able to get even dye with them. So for like the fun synthetic fabric, there's a lot of synthetic dye options. Machine, filled it with hot water, threw in some gray and purple dye, and shoved this monster in there and dyed it. And so as you see, it dyed the tool a nice grayish purple color.
The purple and the gray together.
Yeah, you can mix colors with those dyes. Yeah. Yeah. Like I like purple and gray a lot. It gives it kind of like a layered two-tone effect. Blue and gray works really well. Like some color combos don't work. I tried red and gray one time. That just kind of turned into mud. But greens and blues will work together really well. It gives kind of a wonky, dingy and then the liquid dye, you can literally just pour it on the fabric. And if you use your washing machine with those, like after you dye it in the machine, all you do is run the machine again and it'll wash out any dye residue. So you don't have to worry about your next load of clothes turning grayish purple or what have you. So let's say you found a garment, you've altered, you've dyed it some colors or whatnot, and you want to do a little bit more easy, aging, distracting look. Bleach is another cheap and easy thing to play with. The inside of this coat, I just took a bottle of bleach and sprayed it and spritzed it. And it does like this, basically it's called reverse discharge. Is the dye, the bleach eats the dye out of the fabric. And you can do this all over a dress if you want. Some things I've learned over the years is certain dresses have like almost like a Scotch Guard stain proofing, and you can't even bleach through them. I had an Alfred Angelo bridesmaid dress I picked up for $1. I spent like 3 days bleaching this thing, being like, why won't it change color? And then it's like, oh, it's Scotch Guarded. So it's just something to look out for in case you're like, why isn't this working? Scotch Guard being a nice thing. And then on this piece of this is an example of bleach on top of the tea dye. Any of the white spots, that's just bleach. And it's as simple as just a spray ball that's going like, and just do random patterns, and it just looks nasty. And that's what you want on a called cosplay.
You doing with the bleach?
Usually I just do it with just bleach. You can dilute it with water if you want, but usually I just put bleach in a little whiskey bottle, like it's like one of these, and just spray it. So one of my favorite and easiest things to create for costuming are what I call zombie suit coats. And this is an example of a finished one. And what I do, and I'll demo on this one, is you just want to randomly pattern it. Because you know, if you're a zombie, you kind of have a rough life. You know, you might have been buried and had to dig yourself back out of the surface and out of 6 feet of dirt and out of this coffin. And, you know, people are trying to, you know, double tap you and shoot you in the head or hit you with a shovel. So, you know, your clothes aren't going to be in good shape. One trick I like to do is, way back in the turn of the century, a lot of times when you bury someone, the, undertaker didn't want us to fuss with, like, properly dressing the corpse. So you would split the garments most of the way up to the back, so that way you only had to, like, slide it over, like, the shoulders and the sleeves. You didn't have to, like, manhandle the body, putting each arm in, and, like, dancing with the corpse trying to dress it. Not so fun. So a lot of times for, like, zombie suit coats, or a lot of times with, like, dresses, I'll do, like, the big rip up the back. That's how they would have been buried about a century ago. I know I'm short, and I have people in the back, so I apologize. So right now we have I guess we'll call it a beautiful intact suit coat that we are going to destroy. One of my favorite tools for distressing is carpet removers or carpet cutters. I usually actually pick these up at garage sales for about $1 each. You can get them at like Home Depot, Lowe's, things like that. They're in like the carpet removal section. And just as a warning, please don't give these children a run with them. They are very sharp. You could lose an eye. And so,
which may not be bad.
which is true. If you're acting that night, I would totally use that. You have the costume, you have like your eye hanging out, and your soft makeup. See, I just saved you, like 2 hours of time. And we're just going to randomly just start shredding bits of fabric. As you see, it very easily cuts through, and now we have bits of lining exposed. And when I distress, I pretty much never use scissors because scissors leave a perfectly straight cut line. It looks unnatural. It doesn't look like it was made by accident. It doesn't look worn in and like you actually shredded it on something. It looks cut. And when you're distressing, you don't want things to be like symmetrical and matchy. So if like you have like, one big rip on one side, you don't want it to be the exact same on the other. Because when it comes to, like, beauty is considered the most attractive when something is perfectly symmetrical. Like, a symmetrical face is considered the most beautiful. Like, most high fashion models actually have a perfectly symmetrical face. So when you want to do something ugly and nasty, asymmetry is your best friend. And feel free to just, rip it open. Fabric is fairly easy for the most part to tear. Unless you're dealing with something like leather or suede or, like, real thick upholstery fabric. You can usually just shred it with your hands once you get a couple little bits into it. They're like little mini sewing kits, and they sell these for like under $5. You can get them at Walmart, craft stores. Last time you can get $1 store for $1. And they have like these little itty bitty seam workers in them. And the name implies they rip seams.
Katie, have you done any? Do you use the bleach pens at all?
I have used the bleach pens. I don't think they're as strong because they're kind of diluted. And my issue with bleach pens too is it almost kind of like working with a marker. You can't really get the randomness as you can with like a spray bottle just spritzing it. With the spray bottle it looks random and like something awful spills on it.
For the puncture and the teeth, you need to use hot water for them?
Yeah, it needs to be hot water because it helps the fabric absorb. With the wedding dress, like what I did with mine was I used my washing machine, I filled it with hot water, put the dye in, and just stuffed it around the rotator thing in the middle. And most wedding dresses are pretty much synthetic fabric. It's usually like a polyester and a nylon, and like the tulle is usually polyester as well. So that'll take one of the like rip dyes really well. And you can rip as many holes as you want or as few. I like to do kind of like a balance of like, I don't want the actor feeling like they're half naked. Do you know what I mean? Because it can be very easy to go like hair happy, and suddenly you're like, ooh, this is strip club wardrobe. We're going to start adding some colors to it. Now with like lighter colors, darker color paint will show up best. Now if you're starting with like a darker color suit coat, like say black or dark gray, lighter colors will show up on it best for when you're distressing. So if it's like, you know, a black suit coat, a lot of times I'll start with like a white or very light gray as the base coat for when I'm distressing, because then you can get colors to pop off of that once you're layering it on a lighter background. What I like to use is just good old cheap acrylic paint. I get this at craft stores for like 50 cents a bottle. It comes in like 100 different colors. And the thing I like about it is it's cheap and it works really well. I like using a little palette, just blob some paint on it. And then I use a lot of water to kind of rinse the paint out a little and water it down. And it doesn't matter if the water's long or cold. That's just part of stuff to do. And I like to use like the natural like sea sponges you can get them at most craft stores, because they have an odd shape and random texture to them. Because the more texture there is on the sponge, the less work you have to do. The sponge does it for you. So we'll just start randomly, just sort of tapping, and you see it gives like a weird speckle. But yeah, so like literally you can just tap with the sponge and just leave like random speckling pattern. And you can have areas that are heavy and areas that are light. It's supposed to be nasty. A lot of times I'll do like heavier staining areas where I have the tears. The idea is that's probably the most worn and torn. Kind of depending on the character also depends on like where I'll do the staining. Like if I do medical, I'm going to do a lot of staining around the collars, around the sleeves, and then down the front of the garment. Because, you know, like let's say you're a nurse, you're constantly having to be in there and touching like all the blood and the pus and the goo, and it's just going to get splattered all over you, you know, like your sleeves get into things. Like zombies, I can do a lot of stuff on like the collars, on the tops of the jacket, because I kind of feel like, you know, like as you're rotting and molding, it kind of like goes from the head down. This brand is called Crafters Acrylic. Like Joanne Fabrics has their own version. It's like just called Joanne Acrylic, I think. But it's always really cheap. It's pretty much always under $1 a bottle, and a bottle will last you quite a while. In order to go through like an entire bottle of one of these, I have to do about 6 to 8 costumes. So you can just, you know, wherever you want to add like nastiness, so like right now we're just adding a little more green around the collar area. And then I like to layer colors so it gives it a more dimensional look. And I love the nasty combination of like a hideous goldenrod or mustard yellow with green. It just looks very putrid and kind of like bile meets vomit. Any sort of reaction like that is a good reaction in this industry.
Your class wouldn't have been good on Sunday with the hungover.
That is true. I would have had, well, then I would have had access to actual vomiting. So then, like, see, the color is match. Right. The nasty yellow. And I'm just going to use the other side of the sponge. A lot of times I'll just, like, literally just mix the colors because it's so good nasty. It's not. And again, just randomly tapping. And when you start adding multiple colors, you don't want to cover the exact same areas fully. You want to be able to see the different layers of colors coming through. So we have green still coming through, we have some yellow on top, and you don't have to just put the secondary color on top of the primary color. You can have it just like directly on its own on the fabric. And another cool tool for adding texture is this is a stipple sponge. If you're into makeup, this is a makeup artist's best friend, and if you're doing costume, it's a costumer's best friend. These are really cheap. You can get them at any costume shop, any makeup area. It's usually like, I don't know, like about $1 for one of these. A lot of times you can buy big squirts of them for like $2 to $5, and you can cut it up into about 10 of these. And these give you some great little texture. So we'll just put some black in. Now with the stipple sponge, you don't want to water the paint down too much, and there really isn't much to it. If you have too watery of paint, it just flows right through and all over your hand. So I'm just putting a little bit of black on here. And again, just randomly tapping. It just leaves like a little speckled texture.